Hello there everyone and welcome to the Creative Jumpstart class with the beautiful Today is the Day release. So we're going to be making this beautiful yet simple card today. So first off, I am going to be using the Ethereal Roses. These are very, very pretty. They do remind me of the very pretty vintage roses as well. We do have the layering guide in the inside of this packaging, so this will help you layer up these beautiful images. So to start with, I am going to stamp the base layers of all of the flowers that we have. So we have 4 different roses in this one, and one of them does have a stem. So I'm just going to place them into position onto some white cardstock, and I am going to stamp these into place. Now I do stamp these onto 3 different panels, so I have lots and lots of images, all of which I didn't use, but I have them for further projects in the future. So for the base of this one, I am going to be using the very pretty Mountain Mist ink. So I'm just going to stamp that into place, and then I'm also going to do 2 more panels exactly the same, and I'm not going to move those stamps on the little carrier stamp positioner that I have, so they're all going to stamp in the same position just to make it easier to stamp all of the images. So once I have the base layer down, I can then move on to the second layers. They are all kind of grouped and numbered on the stamp sheet, so you don't need to kind of worry to find out which one goes with which. Again, do check out the layering guide to help you stamp these perfectly, but these do line up pretty easily around the edges of the ones that we've just stamped. So for this layer here, I am going to be using the Volcano Lake inks. This is an ink slightly darker than the one that we've just stamped with, so that's going to give us a really great, beautiful tone-on-tone detail for these flowers. Again, I did stamp the other 2 panels using the same technique. I'm then going to move on to the third layer. So I'm just popping in all of the layers on top of where they need to go on the ones that we've just stamped. Sorry that my head does tend to get in the way of the shots on these ones. So I'm just popping those into position. Once they are all nicely placed, I can then take the lid of my stamp positioner, or the little board or panel, whatever you would like to call it, pop that into place and then pick up those stamps. This time round, we're going to go a slightly darker shade again, and this one is the Lagoon ink. So once I have added the ink to those, I can flip my little plate around and then pop that back into position over the ones that we've just previously stamped. Remember to do the other panels too. So once that has been done, I'm then going to move on to the 4th layers for these. Now these 2 flowers that we have at the top do have 5 layers, and then the ones at the bottom just has the 4. So I'm just going to pop these all into position, pick these up, and then we're going to stamp these ones. For this layer here, so this is the 4th layer, we are going to be using a darker color. So this is the emerald, and I'm just going to ink those into place, and then we can stamp these. Again, remember to finish the other panels if you do have more of the panels you are stamping. So like I said, the top 2 little flowers that we have do have an extra layer. So for this one, I was going to go with a really dark blue, so I did stamp it in the Galactic Stream to start with. I mean, it did make a little bit of a difference, but I did want more of a contrast, so I then decided to kind of ink over that using a darker color, and I couldn't find any darker one than the jet black, so that is what I am going to go with, and it still looks really, really cool. It does add a really dark center to those flowers. So once I have all of the flower layers beautifully stamped, I can then move on to the leaves and stems. There are a number of different leaves in the set, and we also have that little stem for the rose that we have in the center of our little panel. So I'm just going to pop all of the base layers into place, and for this layer here, I am going to be using the Grass Field ink. This is a really beautiful kind of primary green, I would say. I know it's not a primary color, but it's the kind of the green that you would get when you are in primary school or a lower school. So once that has been done, I can then move on to the second layer. So all of the leaves and the stems do have 2 layers, so I'm just going to pop those into position. Again, I am using the layering guide. I do have that right above me, so I can see where these do need to be placed. They're really easy to kind of get in the proper position. Do remember that it doesn't need to be perfect to be pretty, so don't worry too much. So for this layer here, I am going to be using the Shadow Creek ink to add in those darker details to the leaves and stems. So once that's done, you can see that I do have 3 of these beautiful panels of flowers and leaves. Once that's done, I can then just cut in between these, and then I am going to die cut all of the images. So to do this, I'm just going to take the coordinating die set. I'm going to pop that around the image that we have, add a little bit of tape, and then I can run that through my die cutter machine. And I'm just going to do the same technique for all of the little images that I have, all of the flowers and the leaves on all of the little panels that we have. So I'm just going to do that, add on the top piece of the die cutting machine, and then we can run that through. And that is going to give us some really beautiful, perfect cuts around all of those little images. I'm just going to do the same thing for all of the other ones, and you can see that we have lots of beautiful die cuts to use now. I have a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 white card base here, and I also have a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 cardstock panel. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this at an angle, so I just have an angled portion of that piece of cardstock. Once that's done, I did want to add a little bit of an extra detail to that trimmed edge that we have at the top, and I'm just going to add 3 score lines right at the top at a 1/4 inch intervals, and that's going to add a really classy looking design touch to that there. And you can see that it really does draw the attention to that cut line that we have at the angle. So once that's done, I am going to add my sentiment, and again, this is from the Ethereal Roses stamp set. I'm just going to stamp that into place right at the bottom of that panel, just using some of the obsidian ink from Altenew. Now I'm going to pop my panel into place. Now I do want to add some foam tape to this so I have a little bit of dimension. As you can see, I'm also keeping away from that embossed edge because I do want to be able to kind of poke and tuck some of these flowers behind there. So it's going to look like the kind of flowing out from, I don't know, kind of an envelope or something like that. So I'm just going to add all of my little flowers into place. I did use a number of the flowers, but again, I didn't use all of them. I'm also adding some foam tape behind them, so it is going to add a little bit of dimension to them. Once I'm happy with the arrangement of the flowers, I can then remove the foam tape and then pop them into position. Once that has been done, I can cut off any overhanging pieces, and then I am going to add in some leaves. So for the leaves, I am going to add these nice and flat, so I'm just using some glue tape to add all of these in. And again, I didn't use all of my images, so I do have plenty more for a future project. I'm just going to cut off any overhanging pieces from behind again, just to give that clean look. And here is the card complete. I really do hope that you like the card and that you've enjoyed the techniques involved. If you do create a card that was inspired by this, it would be great if you do share because we'd love to see. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and we'll see you again really, really soon. Bye-bye.